What's going on, YouTube? Welcome to the U.S.S. Voyager Season 1 Episode 7 tutorial. I'm Zero Elite, and I just want to thank you very much for tuning in today's episode. And if you haven't, please don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button, helping me in supporting the channel. I can't thank you enough for that. Today we got about a 14-minute episode. We're going to be making some serious adjustments to the wireframe of our lower hull today, so that this way we can start planning ahead to really flesh out the lower hull. But we got to get the frame right in order to do this. Now you can see here, I'm going to mess around a little bit now. The placement I'm going to do on the left and right side, they're not going to match up at first. But you're just going to wait a minute here because I'm going to be making an adjustment to the placement point on that. What I'm basically trying to figure out right now is my layering progression. This is why I say it's so important to have your wireframe down, because you look at it this way, your wireframe is essentially your template for how it's your template and it's your blueprint for how the layout is going to look as far as the shape of your lower hull shell. So that's why it's so important to get that down. But even then, when you get it down, there's still going to be changes to be made. So I'm basically going back and looking at this, and I'm deciding that my cut line, it's not going to match up. I think I'm going to throw down a series of blue blocks to count it out. But if I'm not mistaken, I think we're going to go back 12 blocks back with the cut line before we start our next progression point. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. That looks pretty good. So now we have that set. Let's go back over to the other side. We've already got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Never a bad idea to throw down a blue builder line just to make sure, double check that everything is lining up. It does. Perfect. So now we're going to come back and we're going to delete our access that's left over from the next, in between this cut line and the next. Because we don't want that to confuse us later on. Everything else has remained the same so far, just that beginning point. I want that to progress out just a little bit more. Now, you can see that I'm going to be getting rid of everything after that second cut line, and we're going to be making, basically redoing it. So we want to go in and delete our builder lines here also, just to double check, make sure nothing's messing with us, so we don't have anything left over. Now, to give you guys an idea of what's going to happen eventually with the lower hull, we are going to make a couple of adjustments later on once we have it all built up, because essentially what I'm doing here, it's more or less, the best way I can describe it is Voyager is going to end up maybe like 30 pounds overweight on the sides. I didn't notice this really until I had the hull for the full ship built out. Now you can see, instead of going back with the cut line, I just went straight back, and I'm bringing this line straight back until it meets the hull, just like that. So we're essentially just rebuilding what we had before, just in a slightly different configuration. So now, to make life easy on me, I've already got my builder line set up, so instead of having to count, I'm just going to bring this line back until it meets this. Now, if you really wanted to make sure that everything's looking good on both sides, it probably wouldn't be a bad idea to add a blue builder line on the left side just to make sure that this side of the lower hull is meeting in the exact same spot as it is on the right, and it is. So we're in pretty good shape in that regard, so we're looking pretty good. Now we're going back up to the front, and I'm going just up until the first cut line, and then I'm stopping. I should actually be stopping one block before I am, because I'm going past my cut line on, it's impeding right into the blue builder line, so it's letting me know that I'm going one over. Now, while this is going, I have a lot of really cool stuff coming up for you guys. I do need your help, though. I need ideas for small builds that you guys would like to see me do. The reason I need a bunch of ideas is because what I want to do is be able to put out more content. And one of the ways that I'm doing this is breaking my ships up into seasons, which you guys are aware of. But another thing I want to do is be able to put out smaller builds for you guys that I can maybe wrap up in one episode. So if there's any ships, or not even ships, just anything nerd related in general, does not have to be Star Trek. Star Trek just happens to be one of the most popular things I'm requested to build for on Minecraft, but this channel is not dedicated to Star Trek. I'll do anything that's, as long as it's nerd related. So if there's any builds that's a small build, and if it's small enough that you think that I can do it in a day, drop a comment below. Now bear in mind, if you're asking me to build, like as an example, the Enterprise E as a one-day build, this is not realistic. So just to clarify, when I mean by a one-day build, I mean something that's relatively very small. That it's not a large build. Like as an example, the mock tutorial for the Enterprise A or the Enterprise D, even though the Borg cube was a bigger ship, the design was relatively simple enough that I was able to do it in one episode. So if there's any small builds that you guys want to see me do, please drop a comment below or join a Discord. I'll have a link that's attached to my video at both beginning and end of this episode. So this way you can jump in the Discord, click on build suggestions, and add in what ships you want to see me do. Now with that being said, I have a ton of content coming up for you guys. I've really been trying to make a point to go through and think about what ships and what builds in general I can do, and I actually have over 15 upcoming builds that I've already established that I've put up on my Discord. I'm not going to go through every single one because, like I said, there's over 15 of them, but not all of them are in Star Trek. Some of them are in Star Wars. Babylon 5 is one of them, bringing Babylon 5 back. Those of you that grew up in late 80s, early 90s that remember that show, there was some cool stuff on there. So there's going to be some things with that. But yeah, definitely check out the Discord. But to get back in what we got going on here, you can see what we did. Just to rewind us just a little bit. Just brought out everything that we were doing. We brought up to that first cut line. We just fleshed that in going all the way around. We just did it going up to the first cut line. So now we're going to start and trying to get a foundation down for what's ultimately going to be our permanent, well, semi-permanent wireframe for our lower hull. Bear in mind what we have, what I'm going to be adding here today is what we're going to be sticking with when we flesh that out and actually start building in the hull like we did on the front just a moment ago. But we will be coming back and making an adjustment to the width of it, because when this is all, the best way I can describe it, like if you go on my Discord, you'll be able to see some older pictures of Voyager that I did. When you're looking at the ship from the back view, so if you're on the rear of the ship and you're looking forward to the bow of the ship, when I build this all out, you can tell that she's a little bit hefty on the side. She ends up with some love handles, more or less. And what I end up having to do is shave off a couple of rows, and it actually took 2 modifications to make it happen, where I was able to get it to a point where I was 90% happy with it. Um, that was one of the things that was somewhat challenging with Voyager, getting the layering right where it all really matched up, because one of the things I noticed when you're looking at Voyager from the rear, looking at the back end of the ship towards the front, is that she's very, very flat on the sides and the lower hull, and it's not so round. And that was the mistake that I had made when I built this out originally, was that I didn't take that into account, and it's something that I didn't really notice. This is why I say that it's so vital to have your reference material up when you're building these ships out and trying to plan this stuff out as you go. But with that being said, mistakes are going to happen, especially when you're building a ship for the first time. One of the things I notice, like sometimes when I have people comment on either my YouTube or my Discord, they'll be upset because they've never built a starship before, and they pick Voyager or the Enterprise D, and even with my tutorial, they're having a hard time with it. And for people like that, I say, listen, you're shooting yourself in the foot. Don't start off with a massive build like this. I mean, if you want like a clear example of what not to do, trust me. And I'm only saying this from experience, because when I first started building in Minecraft, as far as starships go, the first ship I ever built was the 2009 Enterprise, and I did it the hardest way possible, because I built the ship and then I'd go back and I'd refit it, and I basically redesigned huge chunks of the ship, and I'd have to adjust the interior, the exterior. I was probably better off just not only building just a new ship, but going small. Because when you build small when you're doing these things for the first time, it's less work that you have to go back and update if you notice a mistake that you made, and it's a great way to learn. This is why I have the mock tutorials up for those of you that are newer to shipbuilding, that you can jump into that and be able to get acclimated and learn, or start to learn the ways that I do this stuff, so this way you can jump into a bigger scale ship. But again, even with that stuff being said, even if you're relatively very familiar with shipbuilding, mistakes are still ultimately going to happen. But that's one of the reasons on my tutorials that I try my best not to cover up any of that stuff, unless it's something that's just going to be a complete waste of time, and I decide that like it's something that I built and I really didn't like, I might just end up deleting it, that edition, and deleting the recording and just starting over on that area from the get-go, unless I feel that it's going to be something that's going to be really helpful for a learning process with a tutorial. So that whole long-winded explanation is just going to tie back into the lower hull and why this is actually a great exercise, because it's going back into the problem solving of it. When you're faced with an idea, when you're faced with a problem, it's like, okay, we know that the hull on Voyager is going to be way too hefty on the sides. What do we do to fix that problem? Start thinking about that. You may not notice this right now, but when we start actually filling in the hull, you're going to see what I mean. And I want you guys maybe to think about what you can do to fix that. And then when it's time for us to come back and start making revisions, you can compare what your ideas were with mine to see kind of maybe if we're on the same wavelength. But with that being said, not every idea I come up with is going to be the best one. And also, the ideas that I'm making and the ways that I'm building these ships, I just want to come out and say that this is not a set in stone process. This is just what I have found, what's worked out for me over a period of building these ships over like 12 years. So I'm just trying to help people out and save people from going through the pains that I went through when I first started building on Minecraft. Because those of you that have been with my channel from the beginning probably know this, but those of you that haven't, I actually got asked this the other day, why did I start putting videos out on YouTube? And when I first started building on Minecraft, eventually I decided, I'm like, hey, I want to build the Enterprise from the 2009 Star Trek. And I started going on YouTube and I just typed in U.S.S. Enterprise tutorial. And I had a bunch of different builds come up. And there were a couple that were listed as tutorial, but when you click on them, it's just a guy walking around his ship just talking about features, but he wasn't even going over how to do some of this stuff. So it just made that whole process for me very, very difficult. So really, I'm just trying to help you guys out and save you some time. But, you know, if there's things that you see me doing on here that you feel that I can do better, I don't mind the constructive criticism. As long as you guys are nice, I welcome it. But anyway, I think that's going to wrap it up for me today. If you do have any questions regarding today's episode, please drop a comment below. Definitely love hearing from everybody. Also, if there's any builds that you want to see me do, please join the Discord and click on Build Suggestions under the Minecraft tab. This way you can put your suggestion up and your voice can be heard. Bear in mind, I really need ideas for small ship builds. So if there's anything that you can come up with that's a small build that you think I can do in one episode, drop a comment below because I want to start putting more content out for that. Also, if you want to see Voyager Season 2, if you want that interior, you need to let me know in the comments section, because if I don't have a lot of people asking for it, that's not something I'm going to do. And immediately following Voyager, we're going to be jumping into the Excelsior 2 class tutorial. That's going to be a lot of fun. We've also got the Enterprise D Season 2 that's going to be coming up, as well as the Enterprise A 1.1 tutorial. We'll be doing that when we hit 1,000 subscribers. We're at 806 right now. We've got less than 200 to go. So those of you that have been waiting on a large-scale Enterprise A tutorial, help me out. Share these videos. Share my YouTube if you can. Ask your friends to join. We're so close to getting to 1,000. We're right around the corner. But anyway, I think that's going to wrap it up for me today. I just want to thank you all again for tuning in today's episode. And if you did enjoy this content, hit that like and subscribe. And I just want to thank everybody again. I hope you have a happy and safe week. And I'll catch you in the next episode. And of course, what did you make in Minecraft today? Let me know in the comments section.